in my opinion, that we saw the main event. Miesha Tate, Amanda Nunes. And Miesha Tate just beat Holly Holm in March. She was the champion, her first defense. And guys, I don't even know any other way to put it other than she got dominated for 2 or 3 minutes before getting knocked out.
Look, Nunes is a very fast starter. We all talked about this. She comes out like a race car. When the second and third rounds, and in this case a potential of 5 rounds, when they come, she winds down a little bit. A lot of athletes do that. She's not the only one that's a front runner, but when the storm comes, you've got to be ready to weather it. Miesha had a very fair assessment of herself. She said, I knew she was a fast starter. I knew I was going to have to get through those first few minutes. I just simply wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
When you look, Brett, at the fact that the women's title at this weight class has changed hands so quickly, is that a good thing or a bad thing for that particular division?
Well, I think when you're talking about what's best for the promotion, it's probably a bad thing, quite frankly. It's always best to have a really dominant champion that you can put up on your headliner and sell to the fans. We saw that, obviously, with Ronda Rousey, and Rousey was able to do it with charisma as well, and the way that she was winning those fights. But right now, this is the state of mixed martial arts. I think, quite frankly, MMA fans need to get used to this. We are seeing a lot of champions lose over the recent years in mixed martial arts. Just this week, you had Miesha Tate. You also had the lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos losing to Eddie Alvarez on Thursday. So this is happening a lot because skills are evening out. The game has evolved, and it is just very difficult to defend your title numerous times in this sport.
Certainly it's been a busy week of fights, and it's been a busy week of drama for the UFC. We had Dana White on earlier this evening, and he said it was the toughest week that he's ever had as the president of the UFC, and the biggest reason why is one of his biggest stars, Jon Jones, was supposed to headline and be the main event here tonight. He got pulled off for a possible doping violation by USADA. So Daniel Cormier still took the fight. Anderson Silva flew in from Brazil, very much undersized at 205, but he was the crowd favorite, and people booed Daniel Cormier because of the style of fight and the fact that he took it to the ground. He said, I did what I had to do. What did you make of how that whole situation in the fight turned out?
Listen, I love it. Why Daniel Cormier would beg a crowd for their approval is beyond me. If the crowd wants to cheer you, you tell them where to stick it, you hold the belt up high, and you walk out proud. As far as the contest went, Anderson Silva's stock went up tonight, guys. Listen, he was supposed to get beat. He was supposed to get dominated. He hung in there. Now, it was a little bit of a dull contest. I will concede that, but he went to the ground with a two-time Olympian, with the world champion in this weight class. He protected himself. He looked for some submissions. He exhausted those options, realized, look, this isn't likely for me to tap this guy out. So now I need to survive. There is a moral victory in making it 15 minutes in a contest you found out about 37 hours and 25 minutes ago.
Well, Daniel Cormier afterwards, as I said, he said, I did what I had to do. Here's a little more reaction from the light heavyweight champ.
You know, it's different, man. You know, it's a different fight, different fighter. It was just different. It had to change. You know, I didn't really plan to wrestle as much as I did tonight against Jones, so I wrestled more than I normally would because Anderson is just like John in a lot of areas without the wrestling. I'm still like having to deal with a lot of stuff mentally from earlier in the week, and then also fighting Anderson with the respect that I have for him and everything. It's a roller coaster ride, man, and I was just having to go out there and do what I needed to do to win.
Clearly, this was a very difficult situation for Daniel Cormier, and once again, he's re-emphasizing, Brett, I did what I had to do to win. So now he moves forward mentally. He's got to move forward as light heavyweight champion of the world. What does his future look like to you?
Well, I think his future looks like it did if it had been anyone else in there. I mean, with Jon Jones, of course, that would have been a major win, but he's still the champion. This was a weird fight. I think that everyone's just going to chalk this thing up as, you know, Jon Jones was pulled out of the fight 3 days before. Anderson Silva comes in on 2 days' notice. They were feeling each other out there a little bit. Daniel Cormier went back to his wrestling roots, and I think we'll all just move on. For UFC 200, it was, as Chael mentioned, a little bit of a disappointing fight, but Cormier, I think he can live with that because he gets the victory. A loss would have been disastrous. So now you move on, you face your next challenger, you find out what happens to Jon Jones. Is this guy out for 2 years? And if he is, you go about defending your title like you would on any other night. So it wasn't the night that Daniel Cormier pictured, but I do think that he will live with the results.
All right, very good on that. Finally tonight, if Amanda Nunes was the most dominant, then Jose Aldo was probably the most impressive. 5 rounds against Frankie Edgar, and he just picked Frankie Edgar apart, reminding all of us why he was such a dominant champion for 10 years.
Guys, this was a really bizarre match for me. Here's why. Jose Aldo never attempted a takedown. He never attempted a submission, and he never attempted strikes. His output was 10-1 behind Frankie Edgar. However, Jose Aldo's defense of grappling was the best I've ever seen. He was like the George St. Pierre of offense, except stopping the strike. His defense of the punching and the kicking. There were so many air balls by Edgar, regardless of output. And with 10 seconds left in each round, Jose Aldo put his foot on the gas and stole the round. It was the most interesting and the most effective strategy of the entire card.
All right, so Brett, before I get to you, because his future looks set, it looks very bright. He went over after he beat Frankie Edgar, and Conor McGregor, the notorious one, was sitting right at the edge of the octagon. He says, hey, we can do it, we'll make more money. Here's Jose Aldo talking about Conor McGregor.
You called out Conor McGregor in the cage. What's your message to him after this performance?
Falei que ele é o próximo. Eu vou.
Mas qual é a sua mensagem para ele agora?
Que ele será o próximo. Ele vai ser o próximo. Foi isso que eu estava falando com ele ali. Então, esse que eu tenho na minha cabeça. Eu vou chegar e vou ser campeão de novo.
My message to him is, you're the next. I'm going to be the champion.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It is pretty clear that Jose Aldo thinks that what happened last December right here, and we were all here, was very much a fluke. He dove in, he got caught 13 seconds. It can happen to anybody. But he wants Conor McGregor again. Conor McGregor, August 20th, UFC 202, takes on Nate Diaz. He then said this past Thursday he's going to go back down to 145 and clean out the division. Well, this is the guy that's waiting for him, and he wants a rematch.
I tell you what, I think that Dana White, being a gambler, is going to make that fight, but it would take a gambler to do it. Jose Aldo signed a contract, backed out one time. Jose Aldo was offered that fight after swearing he would do anything to have it, turned it down. Jose Aldo fought for a world title tonight and was darn near the curtain jerker. You cannot put the guy in a main event because you simply cannot count on him.
You know, I agree with everything that Chael said. We've already seen what can happen when somebody pulls out of a main event. It can get a little hectic. But who else is Conor McGregor going to fight? If he wants to keep his featherweight title and go back to that division, there is only one fighter that makes sense, and that is Jose Aldo. And I got to say, the first time that they fought, I do think that Aldo was slightly mentally beaten before he went into the octagon. Before those guys got in that fight, they went on a world press tour. It was unprecedented. Aldo is sitting in Dublin, Ireland. All the fans are on him in a way that they had never been before. And I think now that he's been through that experience, he would come through, even though he's been knocked out by Conor McGregor in 13 seconds, he would come with a little more confidence than we saw him against McGregor in December.
I think it's safe to say that where we were on Wednesday night and where we are tonight, we didn't think we could get to this point, but certainly you got to give credit to the guys and the guys at the top that came and delivered, Brock Lesnar, Emmanuel Nunes, and making UFC 200 something we're going to talk about, and maybe a sounding board or a leapfrog forward for the rest of 2016. For Brett Okamoto, the bad guy Chael Sonnen, I'm the coach. That's it from Vegas for now. SportsCenter's on the road coverage continues later on SportsCenter from Las Vegas. For now, talk to you later.